Among the rot and decay of countless battlefields, the faithful continue to fight for survival against the tide of the heavens' night. And alongside them stand the condemned, giving their lives in droves to uphold the light of Hallgrim and to rebuke their sins by way of war and pilgrimage. For countless generations this has been the fate of the sinner, from the most wretched of murderers to even at one point the reigning monarch of the time. All who invite the abyss and its influence into their mind will fall to preserve the empire within the legions of the condemned. Through waist-high mud and the viscera of fellow men, through 1,000 sword strikes and 1,000 bullets, facing the cowardly who give themselves to the night, or facing its greatest angels, they have no choice but to press on for forgiveness. Forming vast legions of no renown, the Hallgrim prison soldiers are a relatively common military unit seen across their territory. Their ranks are lined with those who have been sentenced to death or those deemed heretical, their only chance at redemption being the completion of highly dangerous duties, most common of which is the collection of black tears to be kindled into Ember, and to serve as fodder and vanguard on the front lines, tiring out enemy forces before the Blessed make their advance. Their deeds are sung in few tales, and the record of history places no importance upon their names. Few pray for them, and fewer yet worship their wretched march into the bloody maw of the battlefield. Yet despite their low morale, many find hope in the idea of regaining the favour of the Mother Iva and her saints, spurning a few moments of surprising heroism, with a few insignificant deities sprouting among their ranks, usually imprisoned pilgrims who bolster the morale of the faithful with displays of bravery. Yet despite this, very few of them ever taste freedom again, their fate being so undesirable that many have fled into the rotten black swamps of Graveswick, taking their chances in a place where few dare tread instead of facing their punishment. Life among these legions is dangerous and rather tedious. They share lodgings with the animals, and when not in combat they are forced to carry large amounts of supplies for other soldiers, yet are not permitted to be transported by carriages, as the pilgrimage is considered a part of their redemption. They are additionally an invaluable workforce for the engineers, digging trenches, lugging wood and stone for the construction of defensive positions, raising tents and palisades, and so on. Their diet is composed almost entirely of plain, easily preserved food like hardtack and root vegetables, only ever getting better meals should they manage to hunt local wildlife or on sacred holidays. Although, due to the importance the Hallgrim religion places on the lives of human beings, many who are of more fortunate ranks will provide them with the occasional helping hand. Despite what one might initially expect, the prisoner legions are more varied in the units they field due to their soldiers coming from such different backgrounds. They of course field regular infantry, but there are also prisoners who used to be well-taught mages, expert marksmen, augmented knights, explosives experts, captured enemy soldiers with foreign magics and skill sets, and any other walk of life one could imagine. However, unlike most other legions, these immensely varied soldiers are simply thrown scrounged together weapons, vaguely fitting of their past expertise, before they are bunched together into big incoherent units and thrown at whatever problem they are required to solve. Even as the arms and armor of most Hallgrim legions is rather ununiform, the prisoner legions are outstandingly disorganized. Their weapons are rusty old farm equipment and scavenged remnants, and even though their armor is purpose-built, it is often formed of poor quality metals and weary craftsmanship, having no blessings forged into them, as no faithful blacksmith would wish to tarnish his anvil with the disgraceful symbolism they bear, being intentionally made to reflect that which the Hallgrim faith scorns, resembling draumic mutations and abyssal demons spoken of in folk tales. For some context before we discuss the equipment of the soldiers being drawn in greater detail, Hallgrim frequently utilizes a class of magical catalyst referred to as of yet as Ember augmentations. These can be anything from a prosthetic finger, to guns, to the biggest vehicles fielded by their armies. They comprise of a shell made usually of metal or wood, which have intricate layers of muscles, veins, organs, and spirit threads grafted within them, giving them their function. After which they are connected by said spirit threads to the user's own Ember web, functionally making that piece of equipment a part of their body and soul, allowing them to operate it with ease. This is what allows the people of Hallgrim to match the monstrous horrors of the Abyss. However, whereas higher-end Ember technology utilizes organs harvested from ancient constructs and golems, the augments of the prisoners comprises mostly of modified livestock organs, splintered wood, tainted spirit threads, and Ember scarce tallow candles. One of the most common Ember augments used by the forces of Hallgrim, with the prisoners being no exception, are external skeletons resembling jack chains, which work as an anchor for other catalysts and augments to be affixed to with greater ease, alongside bolstering physical might. However, for the prisoners in particular, these skeletons have a more sinister function, allowing specially trained warden mages to impose their own magic upon it, such as setting them ablaze should they fall to the enemy, detonating it like a bomb, or most commonly to lock their movement at the snap of a finger should they deem it necessary. Now, let's go over the soldiers depicted here. The first wears a more complete suit of armor made of thick steel, one likely intended for the storming of enemy lines during high-risk offensives. They were few saintly visages, meaning they would fight close to their own defensive lines, which overflow with religious symbols, altars, tapestries, and divine imagery, as it halts the influence of the Abyss. This prisoner would have been sentenced for a lesser crime, as the only piece of humiliating gear upon them is the helmet and wooden wheel, which depicts a beak bursting out from the jaw of a helpless human face, symbolizing that the condemned spoke the decrees of the Abyss, while the sides are adorned with jester-like ears which convey foolishness. Otherwise, the helmet is surprisingly well crafted with an adjustable fume mask, which filters out bad air using herbs, and a separate pair of lungs. Outside of the helmet, the only other augment they wear is a crudely embedded second skeleton, while their weapon comprises of an aged worker's hatchet and a wooden shield with a religious symbol they painted on themselves. And although not visible in this depiction, they would possess a small and poorly put together pistol. All of this marks that they might have been of noble blood. The second one is a bit more interesting. They possess significantly worse armor, layers of rusty, barely held together chainmail atop a torn and frayed gambeson. The weapon they wield is a rusty pitchfork. They are adorned with a rather significant amount of saintly visages, meaning this prisoner would be expected to venture further from established positions, being a lighter infantry more suited for things like the harvesting of black tears, or long marches to flank enemy lines. Upon the shoulders are a few bronze scales, representing a layer of draumic mutation as a means of mockery, while their helmet resembles the face of a hog, which has little protective value besides being an uncomfortably thin layer of bronze. Within the large snout, however, are additional membrane to enhance smell, allowing this prisoner to track beings which bear the taint of the void. Outside of the second skeleton, this condemned is perched upon two prosthetic legs, which although in an act of cruelty are forged in the image of beasts, give this prisoner an enhanced ability to sprint, allowing them to cross wider distances in less time and with less strain. The downside being that two wooden containers upon the thighs contain organs vital to their function. Next to said containers, this prisoner wears the decapitated head of a slain Akron warrior as a trophy. With that being said, that is all I have on the Prisoner Legion for now. In the future we might be revisiting them for certain characters, or if I happen to get specific unit ideas that I find interesting enough to talk about, like perhaps some of the ones I mentioned earlier. I do have some notable figures planned that hail from them, such as the reviled Warden who serves as the Legion's deity, and perhaps some of the Warden mages under his command. In the future we will also be delving into different legions, both from Hallgrim and the other factions, as most militaries in this world are broken up into various armies which serve the many battlefield gods who rise from worship.